Good morning, good evening, or good night. I guess it's depending on where you're watching this from. My name is Eric Howard. I am the Director of Marketing here at Troy. I'm excited to welcome you to our uh, next event in the Innovative Insights Troy webinar series today. The goal of this webinar series is to showcase innovations in the secure document space. Before we begin, I would like to go over some housekeeping. All questions will be taken at the end, but ask them as you think of them in the chat window. For the web version, make sure you hit send. You have to hit send in both versions, but sometimes the web version is a little tricky. With our efforts to constantly improve these webinars, be on the lookout for a brief survey later today and let us know what you liked and how we can improve. And make sure you register for our future webinars. It's very easy. Simply go to troygroup.com and under our resource section, just click webinars. Now it's my privilege to introduce Brian Coddington. Brian is a senior product manager at Troy Group. He brings experience from Hewlett-Packard, Micron Technologies, Synchrony, and his own businesses. He has expertise in product management, software and hardware engineering, supply chain, operations, marketing, and channel management. At Troy Group, he is responsible for our SecureDocs Sentry document security solutions, along with our secure UV printer product lines, which allows our clients to provide a new level of security to vital documents and records. With this, Brian, take it away.
Okay, can you hear me, everybody? Hopefully, we're all good. I'm getting Eric's saying nice things to me, so it's good. Thank you for joining the call today. Probably to speak to you. I think I know some of you probably on the call, and a lot I haven't met yet, so great to meet you all. Let's just get into it and see what we're going to be doing today. So our agenda today, Eric will come back and give us a quick rundown of Troy in a second, but what I'm going to be covering today is we're going to have a quick discussion on document fraud. We're then going to look at our SecureDocs Sentry solution with some use cases, features, architecture, live demo. Also try and give you, as we do this, some insights into document design and security. We're then going to talk about secure UV printer offerings, which is matched completely with our software. And also breaking news, we're introducing a new printer today, the new Troy C5000 secure UV printer, and then some questions, then some Q&A. So let me just, we'll remove the webcam there for a second, and click on here, and we'll go to the next slide. A bit about us and where SecureDocs fits into our portfolio. So Troy was founded in 1963. In 1975, we worked with the US Treasury, and we engineered the very first laser printer, check printer, in 1986, became an HP OEM authorized partner in 1993. We just were with them at their technical conference and at their partner conference with a 30-year relationship with those guys. We introduced our mica toner printer with Secure Toner, and we'll show you a little bit how that works a bit later on. And that stops check washing and document fraud. In 2021, a lot of new products. We have a SurePay cloud, which is for check printing in large enterprise environments. We have large production printing with KM. We introduced our SecureDocs software in 2016, so that's a few years old now. We're actually on iteration number 3 of that. 2013, we've got our UV inks coming online. We have a sister company which does Secure RX, and they have solutions for secure prescription printing. And then we've in 2022 introduced our FlexPay software, which is partnered with QuickBooks. And we now have a SurePay teller software, which are for bank solutions as well, for tellers in bank branches. And we're continuing to innovate, as you'll see today. So we're a global company, and as you can see, just some highlights there. with our SecureDocs, our microcheck printing, the large production printing, Troy AssurePay, Troy FlexPay, and we'll be adding a new partner to the list at the end of the presentation as well. So we'll be talking about that. And we are trusted by companies large and small. So as you can see, Barclays, Goldman Sachs, KeyBank, Wells Fargo, Citi. I'm not going to go through the list, but there's quite a lot. We have thousands and thousands of partners from the very large banks all the way through to some very small branches and some very interesting, unique locations in the world. Okay, so let's get on with what I'm here to talk about. And I'm going to talk about our latest version of our SecureDocs Sentry software. But here, I'm being a bit flippant here, but let's just take it, document fraud, really? Yeah, there's a lot of document fraud around. And one of the things that people kind of get tied up in, or document fraud quite often involves identity fraud as well. So it can get a little bit mixed up with what is the document used for? It could be some secret plans for a brand new Formula One racing car that left the building. It could be a birth certificate, it could be an ID card, anything that needs security, document form, but really blends in with identity. So if I'm presenting you with a document, or you're presented with a document, what do you care about? It kind of breaks down into three things. The first one is the document real? Is the document you're being presented a real document? Is it what it represents to be? And that can be in a digital form or in a printed form as well. You get a lot of emails every day saying, hey, your Apple TV subscription's gone. And it looks like it comes from Apple and it's not, or you've got this package arriving. They're totally fake, and that's in digital world. In the printed form, I could turn up somewhere and present you with something and you wouldn't necessarily know it's a real document. So is it a real document? There's information on that document. Is the information on that document valid? So I see a name, I see this, and this. That's great. And I see it looks like all the information on the document I'm looking at is real. The next thing is I'm looking at information. Is that real data or fake data on the document? So there's three things on the document. Is it real? Is the information on it valid? And is that valid information real? So if I presented you with a birth certificate and I just renewed mine to get copies of it, and went through a process and had to identify myself with all sorts of strange things to prove who I was so it could be mailed through to me, I present that birth certificate to you. You can see some up in the top right-hand corner there from kind of the UK. It looks like it's on the right paper. But have you ever seen one before? All the fields look correct and filled out. Yep, I had a friend here where I live showed me a birth certificate the other day that was handwritten from about 30, 40 years ago, and they'd actually put names in all the wrong places, but it was filled out. The presenter looks like they fit the demographic for the data, so I look like I'm a Caucasian male around the right age for what's on the document. It's got a nice embossed stamp on it, so it's good then, or it may or may not be good. So how do we go through and make a document more secure and also have the people that review those documents know it's what it is? I did a quick search the other day. It's fake birth certificate. Now, obviously, Google loves me now and is really profiling what I search after this. But look at this: realistic fake birth certificate starting only $45. And here I have images, funny for a passport, videos, Illinois, Florida shopping. I did a previous search, even said embossed up here, going back to where it's got a stamp on it. So it looks like it's very easy to go off and buy a birth certificate and present it to someone. But that's just, a very small element of document fraud. So let's have a look at the different types of document fraud. So both false and genuine documents are being used to perpetrate crimes or the variety of frauds. And I went off to Interpol here and some of our internal documents and came up with this list of, so let's look at false documents. A counterfeit document, it's basically another unauthorized reproduction of a genuine document. For example, I still have from a previous life a insurance license. But if I try and photocopy that, my insurance license, my property and casualty insurance license, you cannot copy that document. So I couldn't just make a copy. It will come up, and it's very easy to detect whether that is a fraudulent or not fraudulent document as a copy. But a counterfeit is, it's a reproduction of genuine document. A forgery is something that's been created with misleading information on it. It could look like exactly the real document, but there could be false data on that, false identity, whoever presents it. The pseudo document is you make up a totally fake thing. So I make up a government department. I make a very nice identity for this fake department, and I'm actually going to come into your place of work and say, I need to inspect the IT room now. I am from the IT directorate of wherever you happen to live. So that's a pseudo document. Now, another big type of fraud is genuine documents. So I've managed to steal, beg, borrow a real document. I'm using that document. It's real, but I'm actually able to use it to get myself into a building, to get other information, identities, as something real. And I've stolen the document, and I can then use it further. The other one is actually, another use is misuse of a genuine document. I pretend to be someone I'm not, and I present that document, and I bluff my way through the situation. And one very, very important concept here is the concept of breeder documents. And what I mean by breeder documents, they're a document that is used, fake, forgeries, counterfeit, whatever it happens to be, to obtain a genuine thing. So if I'm able to get a breeder document, and I then can steal your identity or get a loan or some other service or a job, that now sets me up down the chain as totally legitimate. Okay. So use cases. I've got a long list of documents up here where SecureDocs Sentry can be used. License and registration. Obviously, probably the most people, travel and identity documents are probably some of the biggest documents used. If you travel for business the whole time, in the US you go through TSA. If you travel internationally, you're using your passport. And then in the US you have global entry. Europe has its own European identity as well. Breeder documents here, something totally different. If you're out buying a pet and it's a registered pet, puppies can be really, really expensive. So you actually want to prove that that is the real dog with a lineage, and that's a real certificate from the Kennel Association or wherever you happen to live. Academic transcripts and diplomas. This is a great one. I could have done another search for my previous example, and I can buy a degree, and I could put it up behind my picture right now with a big gold stamp on it saying I have a degree in, I don't know, astrophysics, and I have a PhD in this. And you want to know that that document is real. And there are ways and means you can do with those kind of transcripts where you can add security to the document that goes out to an external location. And that external location will verify it's you. And as you add your education on, you can then start adding additional things to your academic record. Invoices, receipts, insurance claims, chain of custody on those documents, notices, collections, certified financial statements, mortgage, escrow documents, test results. There's another great one there. But there's lots and lots of scenarios where you may not think I need security on that document, and then it gets misused. So some real life use cases that we're going through right now are either in process or actually in deployment. We're working in a region, actually it's a fairly far-flung region, and we're producing birth, marriage, divorce, death certificates across that region, and actually doing secure printing in that region with the software. We're working with a notary service, and they have 20 different locations. They have 100 document variations, and those documents can be anywhere from 2 to 50 pages long. Typically, they're 3 to 5 pages long, and they need anywhere from 3 to 6 copies of those documents. And they want to add security to on all of those throughout those documents to prove they're real. Another one, which is a purely online one, is in one Latin American country. We have a solution where they are looking for electrical inspection certificates. So someone goes off and puts wiring in their house. electric inspector goes round and they want to connect service to that house or that property, they're actually using digital verification to an external source to verify the inspection was really done and they haven't forged the inspection certificate. Another one is looking at tax certificates on cars that are in the windshield and having a way to print and then externally verify as someone goes around to inspect they're not fake tax discs, because those things can be pretty pricey per year. And then the other one is, we talked about Troy and Micah at the beginning, and which is our check security and our secure toner, high value checks. We have one instance at the moment we're working with someone on the solution potentially to add a UV component to a check, so no one can copy the check and then try and present it and cache it, and this would be for large value transactions. Okay, so moving along, what is SecureDocs Sentry? So if I look at let's talk about what it is in terms of the function of the product. When you create the document, you output the document in a digital or a printed hard copy format for use. We add security level at that point. We're not adding security level before that point, so it's totally at the time of creation. Another very key feature is we're able to take data on that document, capture it, and repurpose it in the document. So on this document over here, we have an image capture. We have then recreated that image capture as like almost a background watermark, and that can be a very faint grayscale, or that could even be in UV. That could be in a yellow ink that would fluoresce, or it could be in a totally invisible ink that would fluoresce when you shine something on the document. We're able to take the name here, Jane Smith, and we actually reproduce that in the background on what we call a Troy mark. And so we can add variable security to the back of the document as long as some tags. We'll show you how that works later. We can add signatures in, various UV images. We have a secure UV mark that can be added, and that can be verified on an external application. And we can do text matching. And that's a pretty important feature in terms of we can now have something on the document and apply security to differing pages on the document. So if you say you had a 13-page document and the document has to be complete to be valid, but maybe you just want to add security on the first page and the last page in terms of some UV, some other high-tech security features, and then not add those on the middle of the document because those pages aren't actually valid without the front and the back pages. When you add our UV printers to the mix, and I'll show you how this works later, you add a whole other level of security. This works for printed or digital output. Obviously, if I'm playing around with UV, ultraviolet, I'm going to have hard copy output versus digital. We can validate, as I said, through external applications. We can use an API. So imagine you have some, or you're using an internal application, I don't know, Oracle, SAP, whatever it happens to be, or you're an accounting solution or document management system. You can output a document to our API and then return the document back into your application with security features added for your digital or hard copy use at a later point. The software has very detailed user document logging and tracking, so we can tell who's logged on. We can see what access rights they have, who printed what document and when, and keep a log of those documents for your records. I've already talked about applying different security features on different pages. And most importantly, it's very simple as an administrator to use. And it additionally is totally transparent to the user. Your user in your office doesn't need to know anything about the software. They're going to hit print, or they're going to hit output in the API mode from your application, and the document will have security added to it, and it will go to hard copy or file or back into your application as needed. They need no training on the actual creation or adding of the security themselves. So how does it work? Pretty straightforward. So what I'm going to do is, as an administrator, I'm going to create a template, and we have a print agent running or an API running, and the admin section, I'll show you how this is configured later or in a moment, will sync with the print agent, and it's just holding the templates. When your user goes to send a document out, it hits the print agent. We apply the security. We create a secure PDF document, and that either goes out to a physical printer or it's saved in the log, so you have a digital record to make it work. So very, very simple, very transparent to folks. Just checking here. Give me 1 second. Okay, I just thought someone was saying my sound had gone off, but no, we're all good. And very simple flow, template, secure print agent, user sends document, security features, layers added, document output. So before we go into the software itself, let's have a look at some things you should be looking at when you are thinking about designing or adding security to document and your business process. So what's your threat level? How expensive could it be for you if a fake ID is used, or an identity is lost, or you lose some very secure documents, and you have no way of understanding how they left the company, and you've lost some IP? I used to work for a semiconductor company, and a few years ago, and someone left the company, and then about 6 months later, they were presenting a paper at their next company as theirs, and hadn't really changed much in the document, and that was shut down because people saw that. But if that person had vanished and given that document to somewhere else, would there be a way for you to go and find that document? And how expensive is it for you? Is it good enough? What is good enough for you? For your security? I think SecureDocs has about 15 features we could add to the page. Do you need 15 features? Probably not, but several that interact with each other could be very, very useful. Does the document need to stand on its own, or is it used in a controlled environment? So is it something someone can randomly walk in and say, I'm Joe Smith and I'd like a job here, and you go, oh sure, Joe Smith, you can have a job, or I would like a loan please? Or is it something in a very controlled environment, such as a border crossing point, where people are trained to look at the document and know how to look for a fraud? Does the document interact with anything on the page? So for example, I showed you where we were taking the lady's name and actually including it in a background on the document. So if you altered the name after the document's created, that name will be wrong in the background. And do I need complex layers of paper or a document? So a modern passport has a Western passport has about 12 layers on the ID page. If you open up a new passport right now, the page is very thick. They have holograms, they have foils, they have complicated printing on $million printers. Or do I need something simple? Could I have something that I could add security on? Maybe some security stock with something on the background, or it could, as we can do with SecureDocs and UV printing, we can have use plain paper as well. So does your business match up to security? So if you put in SecureDocs and you add a nice UV printer, does your business actually have processes in place to make it worthwhile? So imagine you're in a DMV and you're printing out documents to prove the ownership of a car or something, but you have that document, that paper locked up all the time with the certificate paper, but then you leave it in printers and the printers don't have locks on them. Are users trained on how to validate the document? So if they're inspecting documents, do they know what to look at? Do you have roles and security levels for your admins and users? Or is it just anyone can log on and do anything they like? Are there workflows in place to actually process things through? Do you have multiple copies of the same document? Or is there just one copy and it's serialized? Can you audit who's logged on? Can you audit the documents? Can you go back and look and find out who's done what? Is the document the latest version of the document? Maybe you've updated to a new form and your one branch is still using an old document. And do you have a simple way externally potentially to validate that document? So I'm showing an example here where we're using our external app, and I go off and I can verify the document externally from from a QR code. So things to think about. It's not just about the document, it's about your business and the processes you use. Okay, So I'm doing a lot of talking, a few more slides, and we'll actually get into a live demo. So this is the evolution of a document. So I have my original document here. I have Jane Smith, and this is the document I sample into SecureDocs to create a template for. And here are security features I've added in. We'll do this live in a second, and I'll show you what it looks like. And when I output the document, here it comes. This is what the output would look like if I printed it. And another feature I didn't talk about here is maybe you have different levels of document for different people and different uses. So you can set up a template to actually redact information. So if it's not relevant to the use of this document for her date of birth, but it is at the next level, you can actually automatically redact that from the template. Now, this data, when it comes in next time, can be different. When you send the real document in, this is just a template just to show us where the fields are. We map over the fields on the document to create the security. And as soon as this document hits this template on the print agent, it's gonna run and come out with the output here, just as I showed you in the process earlier. Okay, so there's 4 different ways we can implement SecureDocs. The first one here is, and this is brand new to this version of SecureDocs. Previously, it was running more in a local option. We can now run SecureDocs on a cloud, but let's be very careful what we define as cloud. It's your company's private network. And what I mean by that, if you have an environment set up with a server or it could be on whatever you're using internally, you set up a virtual machine, you can run SecureDocs in that network. And how it works is I have an admin user, he goes through a web browser, or she goes through a web browser, and on the admin environment, you have a config tool, a visual designer, the templates, and all the logs. We have a print agent that's also running in this instance because it's all within the private cloud. And the print agent's also running there. It synchronizes with the admin environment. The user prints the document out as normal. As long as the print agent looks just like a Windows printer, and as long as they can see a Windows printer across the network, they'll be able to see our print agent. The templates are here waiting. The document hits the print agent, applies the template, and then outputs it to a place you've specified as a file or out to the printer on the network. Okay. The typical new implementation we're seeing right now is on the right-hand side here, and this is what I'm going to be using today. I'm the admin user. I'll use a web browser. Troy is based in Wheeling, West Virginia. My SecureDocs server is in Wheeling, West Virginia, and I have the admin environment there. I actually have a print agent. I have print agents running as services on the PC I'm presenting from you right now. And as a user, I'll send a document. It'll hit the print agent on my PC. It's synchronized with the server in Wheeling, West Virginia. I'm in Boise, Idaho, so I'm 2,500 to 3,000 miles away. And the document will come out to a file or to a printer. And this printer can still be somewhere else on the network. So in an environment like this, I talked to you about a notary service. This could be running on a central server, and these agents could be running in the 20 local branches around the city for the notary service, and then talk to the local printer there, or the network printer, wherever it happens to be. So 2 more ways to deploy SecureDocs. First one is I could be running this whole thing on my laptop or my PC, so I could actually go out to remote locations. I could have the admin environment. If there's no internet connectivity, print agent runs, performs exactly the same. The interface is the same, however you do the administration, whether I'm standalone or not. All we do is we'll actually configure slightly differently how it's installed. And then we have the 4th environment, which is kind of that electrical inspection environment, where I'm actually running on, you can run an API. And so what you can actually do is we set it up exactly the same. You create the templates, and when you send out the user sends out their document, they don't know it's actually going to an API. It basically replicates what's happening with the print agent. The API synchronizes the template, and the document comes out as a secure PDF back to the user's application. So that's kind of the 4 modes of how we can use SecureDocs today. One note, if I go back to the cloud here, very important. The reason we're not thinking about, and it can be deployed on any cloud you have, is that we're talking about security documents. We're not thinking this is something you're doing across a public cloud network. It's something that's controlled in your own environment. And today I'm actually VPN'd onto our server environment from here. Okay, so I guess it's time for me to stop showing PowerPoints and let's do a demo. So let's get out of this real quick. Let's move this over here and let's bring SecureDocs up. Okay, actually, before I bring SecureDocs up, I'm going to talk about the document we're going to be using today. And the document we're using today, I'll make this a bit bigger, here's my friend Jordan Robbie. Jordan Robbie does not exist. There is not a Bank of Loch Ness. Everything was randomly generated. I do apologize if there is a Bank of Loch Ness, but there isn't. Everything's randomly generated. And if we look at this, it's a deposit document for holding at some, private bank or something. I've got his name, I've got an address, I've got an item, it's so many credits. I have a reference number, I have a deposit code, I have a dated deposit today, and the purpose of doing it, I've got Robbie's photo down here, I've got Loch Ness, and we're going to need Ness's official signature. And this is just a plain document. So if I went to print that, that's what I'm going to be, this one I'm going to be sending as a user into SecureDocs. So now I'm into SecureDocs. Let's just refresh this because it's probably timed out on me. I might have to log on again. That's a pretty good guess there. Okay, let's make this a bit bigger. Okay. So I'm now in SecureDocs Sentry. Let's just go down here real quick, but I'll show you some more fun stuff. This is our dashboard. You can see who's printed. Surprisingly enough, I've been doing a lot of printing recently, and I can see the print agents I'm using. I can see, the type of traffic I have. There are various reports. If I go down to here, let's go here, reports. I can look at, I talked about external authorization. And what I can do is I can see who and where and what has authorized externally. I can look at the files that have been printed. I can look at document logs as well of what's going on, and I can look at external portal events. So there's a lot of reporting in here. I have a bunch of settings to do, but the most important thing I'm going to do in here, I'm going to start off with print agents before we get onto documents. And as you can see, I have quite a lot of print agents running. I have a couple of printers running in Boise, sitting right next to me on my network here. I have some I've just set up to print to files. I also have in Wheeling, West Virginia, I have some these are print agents set up. Actually in the conference room in Wheeling, West Virginia lab. This is our developer down here. Here's a test I'm doing for some printing, and some conference room there in black and white. And these are all tied to templates. So if I open up, for example, this one here, I'll show you how it works. I have my agent in Boise. It's connected to my machine. It's assigned to the Bank of Loch Ness color template. I can set it up to talk to, these are printers that are visible on my network, and I can set it up to output to us file as well. So that's a very, very quick lightning look at print agents, but that's as simple as it gets in terms of setting up a print agent. But let's go up to security templates here. So I have a variety of templates here. And what I've already done is I'm going to edit this template here. And you recognize there's Robbie is back again, Mr. Jordan Robbie is back again. And this is the file I've sent in. I've just imported this file in so I can add some security features. So let's go and very quickly add some security features. I'm keeping an eye on the time here, so we're doing pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with some data capture, and let's do some text. And let's just take the text. And they always say never work with animals, children, or technology, but I think so far we're all doing good. So there's Jordan Robbie. I've captured him, and to make it easy, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up here, instead of having this weird, I'm going to just have a depositor for, there we go, and that's it. Okay, so I've got him there, and what I'm now going to do is I'm going to go and add in a feature. So I talked about the Troy mark. And what I'm going to do here is, here's our Troy mark, and I'm going to expand it over a part of the page, and this can be printed as visible, invisible. I'm going to edit the text on this. The first thing I can do is I can take my captured data from the depositor, and I can add some metadata in as well. So I could actually add in, we create a unique serial number for the document. I can add in the date and local time it was printed and save. So when I go and print this document going forward, it will look in this area of the document. It's going to take out Jordan Robbie's name and it will embed it on the back of the document when it's at the time of creation. And no one knows how that's done from the user side. It just appears when the document's output. And I'm going to go down a few of the features here. We can add a standard watermark. I can add an image. And so I could actually capture Jordan down here and then add in this image. I can add a UV image. I can add signatures. I can add initials onto the document, authentication and tracking, tags, serial, QR codes, barcodes, auth marks. And particularly on some of these, I can use creating this QR code is actually from the variable data or data I want in that QR code. We can even use the document file name, those kind of things as well to embed in there. But on the auth mark, this is a secure encrypted mark that we can go off and authorize externally, either via a web browser or via a mobile app. I can just add some text in here to add the text, and I can even use text there and add in captured text as well as just things I add in. Here's my data capture. I capture some text. I can capture an image, and I can do a print match. And print match is the feature where I can actually actually take something on the document and then do some logical steps to add security to that page. This new version is actually allowing us to do that independently on, if you had a 50-page document, we could do something different on each 50 pages. And then if you're really needing extra security, and this depends on the capability of obviously the printer you're working with, you can have microprint, a microprint border, security background, and I can actually add a warning box, and it actually tells the people what I've done on the document. Say, there's this on the document, you're not going to defeat the document if you really wanted to do that. So that's in the document itself. I'm going to get back out of this. I'll leave that page, and this is the file. This is one. If you have, like on the cooking show, here's one I prepared earlier, and so you can see I've added some text up here. This will come out in a UV. I've added 2 Troy marks on the back, overlaid them. I've collected Jordan's name to add to the back. I've created a QR using some data on the document. I'm actually sampling whatever image appears here will appear here. I've added a signature, and I've added our official signature of G. Ralph, the Loch Ness Monster over there. And this deposit code is creating this serial code down here as well. Very easy drag and drop to do, and very easy to configure. And just down on the bottom here, if you're in the administration software like I am here, we have downloads. I can actually download the software for the client, and I have all my API references as well here. And then there's various admin features as well I'm doing as well. For user audits, setting up companies, I can have different companies if they're within an organization and users, and the licensing to control the serial numbers and the keys there as well. So what I'm going to go do now, we're going to go off and take our document. Let's go find wherever I put my Word document down here. There he is. And I'm actually going to go print that document now. Up here, go print. And you can see, I can see all these printers. If it will stay on the screen for me here. I can see my print agent here. There's all the printers I'm connected to, but I'm just stay print agent. Boise file number 1. I'm going to go print, and you can see my bare document right now. And that's gone off into the ether. And if I have this screen come up here on me, I'm going to go to where I chose to save the file, because obviously I'm not showing you a live printer printing today. And this is my output document. This is what, if it went to a printer, it would apply the UV pigment, but this is my record of what I printed. And you can see it was pretty instant. There's the timestamp of exactly it printed 60 seconds ago. Pretty instant. The security has been added to the document. Very, very slick. So what I'm going to go do now is, that's kind of all I'm doing on the live demo portion. But what I'm going to do is we'll go back into the presentation. I'll just have to go back and find PowerPoint again wherever I hit it. Over here. 1 second. And we'll go back here, move SecureDocs out. Go back into presenter mode. And we'll get on to the next slide. So here's the document. Here's my original document. Here's a version of the document with visible security, which is what you'd see without a UV light. And yesterday, I printed this document out. This is on dull UV paper, so it makes the UV fluoresce versus a standard paper. Not much difference in the actual cost of the stock. And you can see I have elements here. I actually have a yellow fluorescing here. I have a red, blue, and I actually have his image is fluorescing as well. So if I looked at it, it's what you'll see in the middle, and there's some overt security with a UV on there as well. So that's SecureDocs. So, but one of the more important things, obviously, is when you tie it to some other security solution, if you're in the hard copy of the printed world. This, I've redacted this. This is actually a real certificate from a country, and the certificate's real. The people on the certificate are not real, but you can see here. If I was actually, I would just see a document with some text on it, maybe the stamp here, but as soon as I hit it with a UV light, I'd see the features on the back of the document. We develop our own security inks with overt or covert components, and what that means for all those complicated words is it's ink that you could see the printed ink. You might see say a lighter yellow, but when you hit it, just like that image of Robbie, when you hit it with a fluorescing light, it will also fluoresce. Or they can be totally covert, where the document looks perfectly normal to the naked eye until you hit it with a UV light. Additionally to our UV inks, we have a UV toner. So on our toner, we have a fluorescing toner that you can use. So the document will look perfectly normal printed in black, and then it will fluoresce as well. So that all our development of all our inks is internal. So that another level of security is not something we're going and buying ink off the shelf. It's something that can easily reproduce that kind of chemical footprint of that ink. Okay, so brand new breaking news as of today. We have partners there. We have long-standing relationships with a lot of vendors. As of this moment, we're adding another vendor to that list. We've been working very diligently with some time with Epson for security printing solutions, and today we're announcing, based off an Epson engine, the Troy STC 5000 secure UV printer. I have one sitting next to me right now here, and that's the output you saw on the screen from the Robbie picture. It's got a great duty cycle on it in terms of the type of use you see in a lot of the environments we go for. We have two main configurations that we use with ink on this device. The first one will be kind of a fluorescing black with a fluorescing yellow, a visible yellow, but those two will fluoresce, and you'd still have a cyan and magenta as regular colors. The other one solution that we have folks using as the typical configuration is you have a fluorescing black, but you have invisible RGB. So you have a document that's perfectly normal, and then you can actually add security features in multiple UV colors when it's output. We've worked, this is very carefully worked with, so it's matched with our SecureDocs software. The print speed is 25 pages per minute. First page out, not that most people worry about first page out. If you're running a printer on a network, it probably takes you 60 seconds to get there. A very, very good resolution, connected to USB, Ethernet, Wi-Fi. Page volume, this is the recommendation, general recommendation on the printer, 200 to 30 to 300 recommended. We'll work with you very specifically on your application and with SecureDocs on how we'd actually can configure that. Has duplex, two standard 500 pages, yield out of these bottles up to about 6,000 pages. And one thing just to note on printers that's kind of important. I was asked the other day for the application that has 100 different documents that vary between 2 and 5 pages or 50 pages with, for example, 5 copies each. And some pages have UV output on them, some don't, some have cyan output on them, some don't. We will work with you on what the coverage is and those things, because every document is different. So we're very skilled at looking at documents and analyzing what's going on the document so we make sure we get exactly the right mix of what you need for your security application. And it has an optional lock as well, so we can actually lock one of the trays here and secure one tray completely on here, so you can add in security stock. So that's breaking news today. That availability is going to be coming up shortly, but I wanted to showcase this, and thanks to everyone that's been involved in this project and getting it out of the door. Another solution I haven't talked too much about. Our other toner solutions, which obviously we have a long relationship in the toner world, which we do today with other vendors such as HP and KM, and additionally Canon. But what we have here is a vital record solution. So if you look at this printer here, which is a kind of a enterprise level laserjet printer, it has 2 locks. You can lock the stock. It has a lock on the side, and that's actually tied into the printer itself with some extensions. But you can even lock who can and can't print on the printer, so if it is that critical, or you can remove stock and let anyone print to the printer. And we have what's called our fraud defense toner, and our fraud defense toner is it's the same security we use in our Mica secure toner. So if you try and typically or tamper with a check, it will bleed out into the document itself a red dye. That's a proprietary technology to Troy. We can add in digital signatures, and we can also supply with security stock. But in terms of that red dye, check washing or document washing is typically done if people believe they can use acetone or nail polish remover to actually modify a document. And as you can see, it's pretty instant that red dye comes out. And then if you combine that, say, with we're doing with SecureDocs as well, we can add other data. It gives you another a fairly simple solution to add into your standard workflows. Okay, where are we? Final thoughts. So this is some news from last week, and it came up on my news feed that there has been allegedly a massive fraud in the airline industry. And there's actually recently there was a very good show about recycling planes and things and what they do. The most valuable components on an aircraft are actually their engines, and then also the blades. And those blades are supposed to be inspected, ultrasonic X-rays and things before they're reused. And a company has apparently not been doing those inspections, from what I read in the article, and they've been creating a lot of fake documents saying those blades have been inspected. Those blades have now been used in, I think they found at the start of the investigation, at least 26 engines in air fleets from major airlines in the US today. Those blades are actually, or parts of engines are actually being used in planes in the air, and all those planes that where components came from have been grounded and being inspected. Now, this is a document fraud, but it's also a business process fraud. So they're saying fake inspection certificates. Well, the document may have been very legitimate, but it's considered fake basically because the information on it was invalid. So your checks, balances, workflows, and security flows have allowed things to not be, that business process has not happened, the inspection didn't happen, but someone has signed off and authorized that document. So that's where the document workflow and how it's created is just as important as creating that valid document. They could actually have been making fake documents, or they could be real documents because they just said they were valid. I don't know, I haven't read it that far, but there's a huge cost to this. Obviously for the airlines, there's obviously going to be some fairly significant charges, but just grabbed out of the headlines from last week, and just it can happen, happen anywhere and happen fairly quickly as well. So I've kind of wrapped up what I had to say. Just a few closing thoughts. What I've got is what I'm thinking about here. Hopefully you've seen a few things about document security. You've seen how the software works. You've seen some of our UV printing and products. And if you have any requirement for any additional information, please send an email to secure@troygroup.com. This is security software at Security Printing. We will, when we work with you, we can provide you a lot more information. On the outside, we keep it fairly simple because it's security software, and we're working in the security world, so we're not going to reveal too much how we do things. So our team is very skilled, and they'll work with you to work out what we can do, whether this is a right fit for you, how it could be a right fit, and then the exact configuration of software and printing solutions or API solutions you need to provide you with a secure solution. Thank you guys all for your time, and I will let Eric send me over some questions if there's any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Great presentation, very informative. We are getting some questions from the audience, but the first question I have is, the SecureDocs Sentry software, is it available now?
Yeah, so the latest version of this software has been in testing for quite some time. We now have our first deployment is actually out and running in the field, and we are able with you, once we've gone through the discovery process and worked out what you need, it is possible for us to actually set up a test environment for you to test as you work through document design and those things to see if it works for you.
How do I get in contact to find out more about the software?
Just as I said before, if we go for secure@troygroup.com, you can look on the web page. The information you're going to be seeing is fairly similar to this, but please reach out to Secure at Troy Group, and we'll be very quick. We'll as quickly as we can respond to you on there and get you in touch with one of the team.
I know there's a lot of information in the slide, but how would someone know which implementation would work best for them?
Well, it's kind of part of that discovery process. So, if I may have someone that has 2 users and need 100 documents a month, I may have someone that is processing maybe 1 million online tracks and documents a year through a digital application, or I may even have someone that's printing maybe 100,000 checks a month. It just purely depends on what your needs are, and then really go through the discovery process. If we go the slide, and if I'm going to skip back really quickly here, if I remember creating the presentation, yeah, no, I'm not too far. This one. It really goes back to going through the discovery process with everyone and saying, what are you really trying to do? What's the outcome? What's the worst that can happen? And then do you have, or will you have these other things in place? And then we would also go through after that and then train the administrator and then help with the implementation as it goes live.
Now you mentioned the checks, the high volume of 100,000. But can SecureDocs be used for large volume applications?
Yes, it works very well with that. We're able to process, as you saw, that pretty much as soon as I hit the print button, if I actually had my C folder online, it will pretty much instantly appear. And there are ways that we can actually batch documents in for high volume uses as well.
In the secure document space, what document do you think is the most duplicated without these security measures, like birth certificates, death certificates? Like what documents do you think?
Well, if I'm in the US, which I am, although I'm originally from the UK, I'd probably say one of the most forged or faked documents would probably be a driving license because you're under 21. And you know, it's very, very interesting with you look at sites where, you know, and I gave a presentation at a technical event a few months ago, and we were looking at this where your kids are sending their information to someone in another country for them to take all your data and bringing it back. The only thing that's fake on it is probably the date of birth. And so you've given them all your data and they're sending you back something fake, and you've also given them data. There's a double fraud going on there. And then there is a move on driver's licenses for the ability to do digital verification of driver's licenses, where you can actually have a if you happen to be stopped, just like you could read the biometrics off a passport, which you can do to validate a passport to get data now. You only see the data that's needed. Like I talked about redacting data, so it just says your name, your date of birth, whatever it is. So, for example, if you try to access some establishment that's over 21, you could bring your phone up and it would just say this person's over 21 with a photo. But that's probably the most fake thing I can think of.
Well, I know we're coming close to the top of the hour. I know we had some questions about has this webinar been recorded? Yes, it will. Yes, it has been. It will be available hopefully later today. So if you want to rewatch it, you'll be able to do it at your leisure. I just want to take the final minutes, Brian, and say thank you so much for presenting. Great presentation, very informative. And feel free to visit troygroup.com to get more information. Well, thank you, Brian.
Thanks, appreciate everyone's time, and hope to hear from you and find out what you guys are doing in the world there with your applications.